What's going on, guys? This is a video response to Chris Pirillo's Are Hackintoshes Legal video. Now, quick disclaimer in this video, his video did not mention anything about ethics or anything. It was straight, if Apple wanted to sue me, or say for example, and they took me to court, would I win or would I lose? So his video was not based off ethics. He made that very clear in the video and in the article, which is right below. So keep that in mind here. And also, with that whole ethics thing, at the end, I'm going to get into ethics just a little bit and explain to you guys sort of why I do it and why, I'll get more into that later. But first, I have my little list here, so if you see me looking down, that's why, or if you hear any paper. But so basically in Chris's video, he first off stated, like, he asked a lawyer, Twitter link in the description. He's also mentioned in the article if you want to check him out. He straight up sort of asked it, is it technically illegal to run a Hackintosh? And he said, technically, yes it is, because you're breaking Apple's EULA and all the DMCA acts and stuff. But so getting more into actually why it's illegal, Apple basically rents you their software. You don't actually own it. Even if you purchase Snow Leopard from Apple's website, you actually own the physical disc, or whether you download Lion from the App Store, you actually don't own it. You actually basically rent their software. They rent their software to you. So even if you bought it, I spent $30 on Lion, I spent $30 on Snow Leopard, technically I don't own them, which I think is, kind of odd, kind of weird, but that's just the way it is. So I'll get more into this stuff later. Moving on. It's actually permissible to use that software on, I believe it said 2 machines. Like, you can buy the family pack that goes up to 5, all legally. I mean, you can install that. There's no software restrictions that say you've installed this on 2 machines, you're done. It's sort of just like a moral thing. Apple kind of uses the honor system there. And so also they actually let you use that software on virtual machines as well. However, that computer has to legally be running that OS, probably or greater. Some version of Mac OS 10 that's at least that. So for example, I probably would not be allowed to run Snow Leopard on Leopard in a virtual machine. It would probably have to be a Snow Leopard or Lion machine running that virtual machine. So that's sort of just the breakdown of the whole EULA and the way Chris Pirillo and the lawyer, I forget his name off the top of my head, but that's how they put it in the video. So now my thoughts on, as you guys know, I've produced hours worth of Hackintosh content. Just in my latest Hackintosh from start to finish series, there's about 2.5 hours total of content there from start to finish on how to do it. There's other tutorials and stuff there, so I mean, right behind me is a Hackintosh. I mean, I've been using a Hackintosh since October of 2010. That was my, I believe, my 19th birthday. So I've been in the Hackintosh scene for a while. I know a lot about it, so I figured it'd be cool to get my thoughts out there. So what I just said was pretty much everything mentioned in Chris Pirillo's video. However, I highly recommend you check out the article and watch his video to get the full effect. So as stated, yes, me installing OS X on this computer here, even though it is in a Power Mac G5 case, it does violate Apple's EULA because I don't own the software. The hardware is not Apple. Me installing it on there does break the EULA. But my biggest question is, would Apple really waste their time and their money on someone like me that just installs it? I can see, like, for example, you mentioned SiStar. Everyone knows about SiStar, how Apple sued the pants off of them and how they lost, millions of dollars, and they also had to cease production of their Hackintoshes. I definitely agree with this because, they were profiting off of Apple's software. They pre-installed their software, so I can definitely see why Apple would come down on them. But there's a big difference between someone manufacturing these in bulk and then people just installing OS X. And so in a second, I'll explain why this could actually benefit Apple in the short and maybe even the long run. So now moving on, I want to say that this summer I plan on building my own website. Probably going to use Squarespace, so it should be pretty cool. But anyway, I plan to have a form where people can submit a request to me to build them a computer, whether it's a Windows machine, maybe even an OS X capable machine. Now, this whole article kind of clouds that maybe I shouldn't do this. But my question is, can I still build, say for example someone just wants to install Windows on it or something, can I still build an OS X capable machine legally? And the reason I bring this up is because since Apple switched to the Intel architecture, without even really knowing it, a lot of today's Gigabyte and Asus, the more popular motherboards, are perfectly OS X compatible. Now, you may not have a few things out of the box, such as Ethernet, stuff like that. The legality of these drivers, or KEX, as they're called in the Hackintosh world, really is sort of debatable. But the point is, you can install OS X on pretty much any of these machines, even if you don't build them specifically to be OS X capable, because a lot of these Intel motherboards processors, it's all pretty much just compatible out of the box, since the hardware in, say for example, the MacBook Air, they all use Core i7s, the iMacs use Core i7s, Core i5s, so all these chips are the same on the PC and the Mac side. So I mean, it's sort of a big question that I have. Like, I don't know the answer. I'm sort of asking you guys. Would it be illegal of me to build a computer and sell it to someone, for a profit, not installing any OS on it, not Windows, definitely not OS 10. I realize that selling like SiStar, a pre-installed machine, could, and is illegal, and so I don't recommend me or anyone does that. But would it be illegal to build a OS 10 compatible machine? I mean, I really don't know. Post comments down below on that matter. Because like I said, I am interested in doing that, making some money on the side. A lot of people, I mean, you can build a PC for cheap, and to pay me to build it on top of how much it would cost can still be cheaper, and just things like that. So I'm looking forward to do that in the future, but I don't want to run into any rough spots with Apple because I love Apple. So anyway, moving on. Now, in the Hackintosh world, there's distributions, distros that people hack and crack to get to work, which I do not recommend at all. I never have and I never will. I've made it very clear in my Hackintosh from start to finish series that I do not recommend distros, and if you use a distro, I will not help you, because like I said, people modify that, and that's just a very gray area. Every installation I've ever covered in any of my videos has been a retail method of software that I guess you purchased from Apple. So, I mean, I've never gotten into distros, but there's a huge difference between those. I've always used official Apple software that I have bought. And sort of just one more question based on the legality, not getting into the ethics yet, but I mean, Apple in their EULA is extremely strict, especially limiting you to 2 computers. You can't install on anything that's not Apple hardware. But my question is, then why does Apple let all these Hackintosh communities slide, even the distribution ones? There's Tony Mac retail installs and Sandy Mac retail and distros. I mean, all these different Hackintosh communities still exist, and Apple lets them coexist, with regular Apple products and software. So I mean, their EULA is extremely strict, and their consequences could be extremely swift and strict. But they allow these Hackintosh communities to coexist. I'm not quite sure why that is, and I feel that if they really disagree with Hackintosh that bad, then they could shut down all these Hackintosh websites the same way Sony did when they shut down GeoHot's website, distributing rather all these codes. And I realize there's a pretty big difference there, because these websites aren't really distributing their software, but they are distributing software like DSDTs that will make OS X run on this hardware. So I feel that if Apple really cared that much that these websites would not be able to exist, Apple would send a cease or desist order and they would just go down like that. So once again, I'm not sure. Post in the comments below as to what you think about that. Alright, so now here's my take on this, the whole ethics part. Now that the whole legality is out of the way, my take on it, I believe that this Hackintosh, for you and for me, it's a great, I guess, trial of OS X. Someone that just wants to see what OS X is all about, but doesn't have the $1,000 to drop, or even the $700 to drop on their baseline computer, the Mac Mini. This is a great way to see what it's all about, if you'll like it or not. I mean, I think you sort of think of it as like a rental service. I mean, if you want to go rent a movie, it's $1, whereas if you buy it on Blu-ray for 20 bucks and you don't like it, then you're kind of out 20 bucks when you could just be out 1 if you didn't like it, you just saw it one time. However, if you really like it, then you can buy the full thing and then you can be happy with your purchase. So I feel that this is sort of, like a trial. Now with that, I mean, this is a long trial for me. I mean, I've had this, like I said, since October 2010. And honestly, I don't really plan on getting a new computer like next month. However, I am looking forward to getting a Mac Pro as soon as I can afford it, which is basically the reason I built this thing, is because I couldn't afford it. But with all the Hackintosh content and all just the regular content that had nothing to do with Hackintosh, being on YouTube and everything through AdSense, I've already almost paid for this computer itself, which cost me about $1,500 to throw together. I've almost broken even. So if that keeps up within a few months, hopefully by summer, I hope I can get a real Mac, and just sell this thing completely. Of course, with no software on it. I mean, if I do sell this computer, which I plan to, there will be no OS X on it, there will be not even Windows on it. I'm just going to sell a blank computer. They can do whatever they want with it. Whoever gets it, they can scrap it, they can throw it out a window, they can put OS X. That I have no discretion there, they can do what they want. And so bringing up the fact I mentioned earlier about how a Hackintosh could actually sort of benefit Apple, just me personally, I own an Apple keyboard, a trackpad, and of course the Magic Mouse. Each one of these being, it's about 70 bucks. That's $210 Apple has in their pocket just for me buying their keyboard, like their desktop accessories. And on top of the actual physical accessories, I've invested in applications from the App Store, apps I would not have access to on a Windows platform. Final Cut Pro 10 for one, that's $200 with Motion and Compressor, and all just various little $1, $2, $5 apps and games and stuff that I've bought. I mean, that's 30% of all that went right into Apple's pocket. Things that I would not be able to have bought and given money to Apple on an actual, on a Windows-based PC. And I was sort of integrating my content, my work, what I've done. I've actually gotten a lot of my viewers interested in a real Mac software, real Mac accessories, all that stuff as well. I mean, for example here, people, the way I put it, people see my content and they say, wow, he did that using OS X, or he produces content about OS X, I could do that too. And then people want to spend, that extra premium and get a real Mac computer. And some people look at my Hackintosh tutorials and say, wow, that's a lot of steps. I really want OS X. I see the stuff he does with it, but I don't want to go through all these steps. You know what? I'll just break my bank a little bit and I'll buy a real Mac. And as the user Atheist Cole has put it, I'll put the comment up right here. He said that I'm the reason he bought a Mac. Seeing all my Hackintosh content, seeing all my other content I produce, product reviews, unboxings, it actually persuaded him to get a real Mac, not even build a Hackintosh. And now that I actually have OS X installed, I know what it's all about, and a lot of you people do as well if you've built a Hackintosh, then you may say, well, my OS works great, why shouldn't I buy a phone from them? If it works anything like this desktop experience, which by the way is amazing, even on a Hackintosh, then why shouldn't I get an Apple phone if their software on their desktop is so great? And my last reason, in terms of ethics, is that at the end of the day, for every Hackintosh user, that's Windows market share going down, and a lot of people, seeing what OS X is all about, and maybe even end up just switching to OS X straight out. Like I said, I plan on buying a real Mac Pro as soon as possible. I plan on getting an iPad 3 this year. I already have an iPhone 4S. I do give Apple my money, and one day I will give them money in terms of a real Apple computer. But for now, I'm a broke college kid. I love tinkering inside of computers. I love building computers. This was a great experiment for me, and also it just turned out to be a fantastic computer for me. It's very reliable. I can get all my work done. Like I said, I've made enough money on AdSense, in about a year and a half or so, to the point where I've almost broken even with this purchase. If I can keep that up for just a few more months with the support from all you guys, thank you very much, by the way, then I guess look forward to a real Mac Pro unboxing one of these months. But just know that at the end of the day with this video, I do realize that this is sort of a very gray area, and in some cases black and white, that it is illegal. But that was just my take on the ethics. I hope that you guys got something out of this. I do realize that Chris's video makes it pretty clear that this is it's illegal, but my ethics, I hope, can at least sort of justify why me or any other person would want to do this. But also know that in my Hackintosh videos, I always say I highly recommend a real Mac if you don't want problems. I highly recommend a Mac, fill in the blank. I've always have recommended real Macs, and I always will recommend real Macs, and one day I'll have a real Mac. But I will keep producing my Hackintosh content because it's fun to do, I enjoy doing it, and a lot of people get something out of it. And like I said, this could lead to people using OS X and then end up buying a real Mac. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say for this video. I hope it cleared some stuff up for you guys. I wanted you guys to hear my take on it. So once again, if you haven't already, click the video down there in the description. That's Chris Pirillo's video, and there's also the link to his blog post on LockerGnome down there. Check me out on Twitter. I'm at CPUKid. Also check out the Tech Social article right there in the description. And like I said, I hope this cleared some stuff up for you guys. Please feel free to post a video response, comment below. One more thing, please like this video, helps a lot. And when you like it, that little drop down, you can share that on Twitter, Facebook. Please do that. It helps get the word out. Maybe one day get me one of those Mac Pros. So thanks for watching.